in our society, there are jobs that are looked upon as being either more valuable to all of us, or they've required a certain level of education. Doctors today, one of the organizers is a doctor. They go in it for the right reasons. They go in it to help people. And then they're forced into a system that has them, $200,000, $400,000 in debt, which they have to pay off. And so the whole idea of doctors being valuable is in our present capitalist system. Those doctors are seen as more valuable, and their time, and I go to a doctor's office, it's like $90 for a visit to go and sit for 15 minutes. That is because we're in a capitalist system where that doctor has been forced into a situation where they must charge that kind of money because they are in deep debt. We also have, of course, all the paperwork that the state puts into effect to regulate for what? For more profit, so that insurance companies can make greater and greater and greater profit at the expense of who? The patients, and at the expense of doctors. I know doctors under a great deal of stress because of the paperwork. So what we're talking about is a society that when we do any skill, that education, that learning would be supported by the society. The cost of it, the true cost of it, would be borne by the people. And as long as the work at the end, like doctoring, medical care, health care, as long as that is of value to all of us, we are happy to have that service available, and we'll pay for the learning that goes into it. So the motivation, and I was talking about this earlier, the motivation today is seen so often, not necessarily truly, but it's seen so often as, well, they're in it for the money. They might be in it for the money because that's the way the capitalist system defines success. Success under a cooperative society would be how well I do my job, those things that keep us feeling good about ourselves. But the cost of the education that goes into any of these skills would be borne by all of us, because we all benefit. We were chanting yesterday, when one is harmed, we all are harmed. When one is helped, we all are helped. And when you're thinking about a utopia, that sounds like it's impossible. It's not impossible. What's preventing it is the interference of profit. As soon as profit comes into the equation, all bets are off. So we have to keep profit out of it. We don't get rid of profit unless we don't get rid of capitalism. We don't get rid of capitalism until we have a vision of what we really want. And not only what we want, kind of in a general vague way, but really how it could work. Isn't this simple? I mean, we're talking about councils, committees, we're talking about people dialoguing and finding the best solution to problems. What is so difficult to understand? What's so complex? When we were talking about lack of money, no more money, it would be time for time. I call them plastic debit cards. We'd still have our plastic, but we would have a debit card. We would have a record of the time that we have given into society so that we can take out of society. This is not a society where we're all altruistic, perfect human beings. It's a society that... It's a gun to you. Instead of saying, give me your money, they'll say, give me your time. Well, it's all, it's in a... It's 2 o'clock and it's past time. The records that would be kept, just as they are today, our records, which are... They are interfered with because of capitalism. We don't have privacy in the internet because there's a motive to enter our private lives so that the system can allow more selling to us. So the lack of privacy is something, again, inherent in capitalism. When we think of this being an individualistic society, it ain't. It's a corporate society. You are looked upon not as an individual human being. You're looked at as a potential profit maker. You are a little serf. We are. I don't mean you. I mean we. I'm a little serf. And we try to maintain our dignity, but capitalism really is working against us. So on so many levels, the idea of a new society that's truly democratic is not only a good thing, it's a necessary thing. If we're to ever be able to save this planet for our children, I'm not going to see this new society. I have no illusions that this is going to happen next week. We are going to have to go from a movement to a vision, and the vision has to create organically the way we're going to get there. This is a peaceful, evolutionary process we're talking about. Peaceful meaning using the ballot, not through the Democrat, Republican, two-headed business party, but people's own candidates. We don't have to even do it through a people's party. We can do it individually until we get there.
What did the Jamestown colony, I forget, Captain John Smith, said to the colonists, if you don't work, you don't eat. It was that the matter of survival. They were all, if you don't work, you don't eat. Hey, you can use your labor time any way you want. If you don't want to go to work, you're not going to have enough labor time accumulated to go out and buy the goods and services you need to survive. That's your choice. The thing is, you're laid off today. You don't have a choice. You can starve without a choice. Here you can starve with a choice. It's up to you. If you want to starve, go ahead and starve. But, you know, or that sounds cruel, doesn't it? I'm sorry. But the point is, you have to be a contributor, just like you are today, in order to survive. I have to sell my labor power to the owner today under capitalism to survive. So do you. And if you don't have a job, you're hurting. You know, we all contribute in our own ways, but it's valuable. It's all towards the wealth of the nation, so to speak. Sure, we all have different skills, different interests. If we don't take those into account, capitalism doesn't. If you graduate from college, just talked to students yesterday, graduate with degrees in engineering, nursing, you name it. You can't get a job in that. They're working at McDonald's. So that their skills aren't being used. We're not considering their skills, their interest. It's just a job to survive, to get paid to pay the rent. All through the history of capitalism, there have been skills and needs and trades that have been in demand and at different times not in demand. Supply and demand. When there's a big demand for labor in a certain thing and there's not enough labor, then the wages go higher. If it's the opposite, where there's a big supply of labor, then the wages are depressed. So you come at various times within the system, and you might be an engineer one generation where they need engineers. Another generation, they might not need as many. And the problem is, under capitalism, there's no flexibility there. It's kind of they don't train you. You spend your money to learn to be an engineer, and no one tells you there are no jobs out there after you graduate. Here we would know with our input, our statistics, what we need. Well, in the next 10 years, we don't need as many engineers. So we can pick another thing you like to do, because we don't see if we would know that ahead of time. We would have that information, what the society is needing.
He was really getting also to the point that, I think, that capitalism has benefited people, and that, you know, we have to take that into account, that became a motivation, that benefit became a motivation for your dad, and it's become a motivation for you. And we're really not talking about denigrating the idea that we work to benefit ourselves. We're really talking about the fact that when we work to benefit ourselves, in this new paradigm, and it's a really new way of thinking about the integration of a whole, humanity, all of us, that if we benefit, but it ends up killing someone else, not so good. If we benefit and it benefits others, we feel better. And what you're talking about in terms of you might say you've gotten through this era and you benefited from this era. Your dad benefited from the era. It has a lot to do with the point at which capitalism has evolved. And, you know, feudalism was improved by capitalism. Feudalism ended, slowly replaced by capitalism, gave people much more freedom. And so capitalism was never, you know, this horrible system. It started out as a real improvement, and this is what humanity has always done. But we have to remember that no system remains healthy and to the benefit of everything and everyone. Everything changes. It's a life cycle in every system. So we're not saying in any way that we would just, you know, we'd level everything that capitalism did to us. No. We've produced a lot, we've made a lot, we've created a lot. We have, you know, we have a better understanding of psychology, we have a better understanding of how to get along. These are all the benefits that capitalism has, in a way. Sure, it's provided and that we have created. So what we want to do is we want to think about the future. You know, we can debate the present and individual experiences in the present, and we can get somewhere in terms of, you know, really understanding where we are. But if we want to go from where we are to where we think we really need to go, we can't be serfs saying, well, feudalism has its problems, but, you know, it's been okay for me and my dad, and I think it'll be okay. We have to say, you know what? I have kids, I have grandkids, they're going to have grandkids. What are we going to do for them? This is not, for me, this is not for the present. Well, in a way, it is for the present, because it really is a motivation to continue the fight. There are people here who really want to see change tomorrow. They want to storm the Bastille. Well, I know that that's not the way we're going to have change. We have to have change because we're motivated enough to be committed to creating a new society evolutionarily, but always with one goal. So I talk about transitioning through a political process where the Congress enacts new laws that benefit the beginning of a new society, that ends those things that are repressive, that ends private property and private ownership. And I don't mean property like, you know, your house that you're renting out to someone. I don't mean that. I mean the private property that right now is killing us. That is the industries, the natural resources. They are privately owned. So what we need to do is create stepping stones, but call them stepping stones. They are not the goal. This is our goal, and this is what we have to keep in our mind. I don't mean, you know, this particular model. I'm talking about real a democratic economy and a democratic civic society. Someone had their, yes.